WEMF. Presented by the Sound Museum, Boston.
Here we are. We are smoking in the girls' room once again on another Saturday on WEMF Radio. I'm Carmelita, and we have Val and Cindy and Meredith and Kathy, and we've got some great topics for you today here on Smoking in the Girls' Room. We have this week's huge controversy. America's storming over the release of Beau Bergdahl. The deal over President Obama trading 5 Taliban leaders. They were released from Guantanamo in favor of bringing Beau Bergdahl back to America. After 5 long years, he's been returned to America intact. There are a few issues there of which we'll discuss today. Was this a high price to pay, or did our president jump at a discounted last-minute deal that brought the demand of 21 prisoners from Guantanamo down to 5? Was Beau Bergdahl a deserter, or did he snap? These are questions that folks are talking about this week. So that's our first topic today. We're going to play a couple of quotes, one from Beau's Army Sergeant, Evan Boutreau. He's his Army Sergeant that claimed that he deserted. Then we have a quote from President Obama on taking care of all of our American soldiers. And then we're going to play a little song about both sides of the issue. Left, right, and Stuck in the Middle with You by Steelers Wheels. And then we're coming right back to discuss here on WEMF Radio.
I mean, it's a spit in the face to, one, all the soldiers who were there, and more importantly, it's a spit in the face to the soldiers who died as a direct result to him leaving.
He wasn't forgotten by his community in Idaho or the military, which rallied to support the Bergdahls through thick and thin. And he wasn't forgotten by his country, because the United States of America does not ever leave our men and women in uniform behind.
And here we are back again, smoking on the girls' room. It's time for the Smoking in the Girls' Room roundtable to take over. Who would like to open this up?
I'll make a comment.
Sure, the lawyer jumps right in.
Well, tonight is a lawyer's dream come true. We've got constitutional law issues in both of our major topics tonight. I will just remind everybody who's listening to us tonight that the soldiers in our military are fighting to protect those rights. So when we talk about both of these topics, whether you agree or disagree with what's been done, they both are constitutional guarantees that our military is out there fighting for. So we've got to protect our military. And I'll leave it. Go ahead and take it from there, ladies. I'll jump in.
I'm kind of torn on different areas with that. I'm not sure what exactly to believe. I think we've got a lot of different things going on, a lot of different, I'd say propaganda for lack of a better word. Hard to know what the exact facts are. But from the research I did, I found it kind of interesting that Fox News had 6 of his platoon people on with them, and they asked them to raise their hand to figure out, do they think he deserted, or was he taken or abducted, or how did it go? Interestingly, all 6 of them said that he deserted. So I wasn't sure. I don't know the military rules at all, but wouldn't that be considered AWOL? And do we still protect our military?
Sure we do. I mean, in every war that we have ever fought in, Normandy, World War II, Vietnam, any war, even if the person that we're going to get is dead, we go back. We don't ask how they died. We don't ask if they were a coward when they died, if they were deserting at the time they died. We just go and we get our soldiers back. This guy deserves due process. If he deserted, if there's some other thing that he did that was wrong, he deserves due process. He's an American. We should go back and rescue Americans. When we send them into the meat grinder, we go and we get them back.
And I took a look to see where did this Uniform Code of Military Justice come from? Where is this something that our Constitution provides for, or is it something that the military just enacted? And it was part of our original Constitution, and it gives Congress the power to regulate the land and naval forces. And currently all of this, because I did research the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and that the current military code has been in effect since 1981. And interestingly, in terms of, you mentioned desertion, because you have to be very careful of what you accuse him of. And desertion requires intent to remain away. Mm-hmm. So in order to charge him with desertion, the military is going to have to to prove that he left his post with the intent to remain away?
There is a difference between AWOL and desertion, and it's a matter of how long you're away. So if you have a bad day and you decide to take a walk and you get captured, that can take AWOL and turn it into desertion, even though that's not your intent. And then I think a lot of people, from what I'm hearing, is he was depressed and he was not really very well liked in his platoon, was moody, he wasn't cooperative, and verbally expressed that he didn't want to be where he was. So it stands to reason he probably, had some mental health issues and maybe shouldn't have even been there in the first place. But, that's not the way the Army is or the Marines. It's, they
don't look at that.
You suck it up and you deal. Who knows? Who knows why he decided to take a walk? I mean, he knew where he was. He knew what could happen to him. He knew it's a miracle he lived.
And the sad thing is that they're vilifying the parents even. I mean, they wanted to have a celebration in his hometown, and they canceled that. His parents are in hiding. It's really sad that this is what we're doing to each other as Americans.
And this goes to the issue, again, a constitutional issue. Innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
Now, there may be a lot of suggestion that he left his post, but there hasn't been a formal investigation done yet. It's unlikely that they will even start a formal military investigation until he can understand. He's in a military hospital now with U.S. military personnel, and he's not even at the point where he can communicate, understand, relay what happened or how it happened. So that investigation should not start until he's cognizant of what he's being charged with, but yet everything's swirling around that he's already guilty.
I think some of that might have come from, too, with the president coming out and bringing his parents, to the Rose Garden and telling them he's coming home. And Congress didn't know about it but 30 minutes before that. So I just think there's a lot of question marks about it. I'm not saying one thing one way or the other. Having, some of the research said that when they went to wake him up, he left everything behind, and that's one of the codes that you never ever do. You don't go anywhere by yourself, and you go heavily armed, and he left everything. And they went to the next town over, and a couple of kids said that they saw him in the, weeds crawling or whatever, and then no one saw him again after that. So, I don't know. I just think there's a lot of question marks out there with the government.
So, Matt, do you think that they should not have gone and traded the people from Guantanamo Bay for him?
No, I think they should have definitely went to get him. I don't know about the wiseness of trading those 5 people, but I don't know how it all went down.
Yeah.
But they're pretty powerful people that they let go.
Sure, so this isn't the first time we've done that kind of thing.
No. God, no.
I mean, Reagan was guilty of this, too, even before he was president.
Yeah,
so, the GOP's got a lot of nerve saying that Obama's kind of doing something that hasn't been done. We don't negotiate with terrorists. That's bullshit.
Well, the contradiction was that Obama was criticized for not doing something sooner. So this has been an ongoing thing. And then when he did something, all of a sudden, he's wrong, he's to blame it on Obama. We're going to get back to our discussion right after I give out the phone number here. 617-500-7100 is our number. If you want to weigh in on this, give us a call at 617-500-7100. That is the direct line to WEMFradio.com. Give us a call.
Well, inflaming this more in terms of what he did and what he didn't do is the fact that in 2012, Rolling Stone reported that he wrote emails to his parents indicating he no longer supported the U.S. efforts in Afghanistan. And in one email, he allegedly wrote, "I'm ashamed to be an American." So that information has not been verified. But if, in fact, it is verified, does that put a different spin on this? Did he intend to desert?
I guess that'll come out if they decide to try him.
Right.
That'll come out.
Did anybody mention that there was actually an incident that changed a lot of things for Bergdahl? One of them was that one of his very dear friends, First Lieutenant Brian Bradshaw, was killed by a roadside bomb. He was the one person that Bergdahl had grown close to at the National Training Center, and it's said that Bergdahl was traumatized by his death. He was never quite the same after that. Then, according to the emails to his parents, he had grown disillusioned with the U.S. mission in Afghanistan, too, but that was a turning point for him.
Well, then you've got the other issue when you talk about the roadside bomb, because there's some suggestion that other soldiers that went out to look for Bergdahl were killed while they were looking for him. And that's been controversial as well, because he was
it's not verified.
They were in a very dangerous Providence.
It was happening anyways.
Yes.
They were on patrol. If they happened to be in an area where they thought Bergdahl might be, they would go in that area. But it was a dangerous area anyways. And for them to say that the only reason that these people were killed was because they were looking for Bergdahl is not verified. If you go back and look at the records of these deaths, it's not verified.
Well, what these soldiers allege that say that these other units were killed by terrorists while they were looking for Bergdahl is the fact that they were making patterns, or they had patterns, and those patterns were easily replicated by the terrorists, so that they were planting explosive devices in those patterns, and they were also directly confronting the U.S. troops in those patterns. And then drones and helicopters were redirected to look for Bergdahl.
That wasn't verified either, though. I read another article that said that there were actually more drones and helicopters and planes that were sent into the area in addition to what they already had to look for him.
There's an article.
So there's controversy about that.
There's an article in the New Yorker that says that there were 23 drone strikes in the area where he was, and that 3 drone strikes almost killed him at 3 different times. So think about the irony there.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's all very, I think because the investigation hasn't been done yet, there's a lot of information flying, some of which is true, some of which isn't true, some of which may be clouded, and that's why you don't try somebody in the press, why you don't try them before there's an actual investigation and verified facts.
Well, they're trying to discredit Obama too. I mean, honestly, that's the other thing that nobody wants to talk about. Let's close the door on that. The elephant in the room. That people hate Obama. There was a funny quote in one article that I read. It said, "It's been said that if President Obama were to walk on water, the headline news would be the president can't swim." So, I mean, the guy can't do anything. If people hate him, just like when Bush was in office, people hated him. He could have done anything, and people would still hate him. I think there's also an undercurrent of people that just hate Obama because he's black. I mean, I've heard people talk about this, but no matter what he does.
I think that's a lot of presidents too. Any president goes through similar things. But I just think so much of the press has left a lot of question marks that, of course, we don't know a lot of the answers to. And I think another one that I think people are wrestling with is how did he forget his native language after 5 years in captivity, when there's been many other people in captivity who remembered their native language. Like, just a lot of question marks. And that give rise to what happened or what didn't happen, and how do you lose your native tongue, but he can speak, whatever the language is of the Taliban. I think people just don't know answers. So when you don't know answers, there's lots of speculation out there.
Sure, there is. Well, the other issue that's coming out of this is, what about trading him for those 5 detainees from Gitmo?
Huge, yeah.
Huge issue.
Yeah.
And I looked at that, and 2 of them are alleged to have had contact with Al-Qaeda, specifically Osama bin Laden. One of them kind of is responsible, or the UN is looking for him. The UN wanted to investigate him because there were deaths of thousands of Shiite Muslims in Afghanistan that he allegedly was responsible for. So at least two of these guys are very high-profile bad guys. The other,
but they're going to be monitored, Cindy.
Yeah, right.
But that was part of the trade.
Drones with cameras.
Yeah, they're going to have bracelets on them.
Why 5 for 1?
Well, that was interesting, too.
Good
because,
question.
Very good question.
They were being detained at Gitmo as enemy combatants. And there's some speculation, or some are saying that when the war in Afghanistan ends, when all the troops are pulled out, which is supposed to be by December 2014, you can no longer keep enemy combatants. So if we were going to have to release them, the thought was, well, let's get something for them. But why 5? I don't know. Maybe it was negotiated down. Maybe the Taliban initially wanted 10, and they finally arrived in an agreement that it would be these 5.
It was originally 21
yeah.
was the number.
I had heard 21. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a far cry from 5.
Yeah, I'd heard that it was 21 as well.
So it sounds like negotiations were going on for quite a while.
I like to think that I'm on top of the news. I knew nothing about this that was going on, the negotiations. Did anyone else know?
No.
It was
the Taliban insisted that there was be no press, no coverage or anything until after his release.
That's what Congress found out 30 minutes before he was released.
It was part of the negotiation.
Un-American and unconstitutional. And
that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of question marks as to how this happened.
The president had a signing statement that he could do this without congressional approval. So it's not the first president that's done that.
And the Taliban was threatening to kill him. The captors were threatening that they would kill him if there was any publicity about this trade.
That's what he says.
The president had a private session with Congress in classified meeting, told members of Congress, what the whole story was behind the secret discussions and why he did it, and showed a video, apparently a classified video, of the conditions, and that his Bergdahl's physical condition had deteriorated to the point where they were very concerned about his health, that he would survive.
But now that he's been, these are just from reports that I'm reading, he, is really much better. So how close was he, how sick really was he if he can recover within a week?
Did you see him when he was released, though? If you look at the video of when the Taliban had him and he was sitting in the car, he kept
like
blinking his eyes. Right. He hadn't seen the sun. He looked frightened.
If he was messed up when he went in, he's got to be even more messed up now. Yeah. Mentally he's probably... how can you try him even, probably?
I don't understand that part about him losing his native language, that he doesn't understand.
You don't know what they did to him while he was in captivity. God only knows.
That's kind of fascinating. I'm very intrigued by what's going to come out over the next few weeks or months.
Sure, and then once people find out, he's still going to try him and put him to death after what he's already been through.
You have to realize is that the Taliban and the Pakistani groups that these captors were, at one time, they were allies with us when they were the Afghan war. And the CIA trained them how to mess with people's brains. They've got the best training from us. So brainwashing and torture, we taught them. They learned from us.
Well, going back to the enemy combatants, the guys they released, the 5 guys they released, what came to mind when I was reading that is, when is the conflict over? Is it over when we pull our troops out of Afghanistan, or is it over when we reach some type of compromise with Al-Qaeda and the Taliban? So I had questions when I read about the reasons justifying the release of these detainees
because of the end of the war.
Because is it the end of the war, though? I'm not sure the end of the war is the end of the conflict with the terrorists.
It'll never be, because they have no concept of human rights. Their idea of what people, and especially women, are entitled to, they will never ever change, because to them that's their holy law.
I don't know how you can apply the conventional laws that we have about the end of a war and then releasing all of the prisoners that we have, because this isn't a traditional war. You can't apply any of our theories to it or any of our laws.
It's not just politics, it's human beings.
Yeah, and it's terrorism. They're enemy combatants, and they call them that because they don't wear uniforms. You don't even know who the enemy is.
Well, could there be things that we will never hear about from an intelligence standpoint as to why they release these particular combatants?
Of course.
Where they're going to be and what they're going to do.
Who knows what we did to them while we had them?
That's right. And could it be that some of them are actually going to, or were prepared to become intelligence for the United States? Could their lives be jeopardized if they return
double agents.
Yes. Could they be perceived as being double agents and then killed by the Taliban or Al-Qaeda? There's a lot we don't know that we're probably never going to know.
I thought this was really interesting. It was an article in Rolling Stone, and they said that Bergdahl originally had tried to join the French Foreign Legion and was denied.
That's interesting.
Interesting. Like, why would you do that if you're an American, right? There's just so many questions without answers right now, and I think when there's so many questions and no answers as of yet, all you can do is speculate. And every news organization has their little spin on it, so you kind of have to make your own conclusions right now until we do know exactly what happened. And maybe we never
Some of the speculation is rising to the hateful level, though, and I can't stand that. That's why it almost makes me ashamed, really, to listen to the hatred that people spew about this kid kid that nobody really knows anything about his parents, about motivations, about what he did and what he didn't do, and it's just such hatred. Let's wait and find out what happened.
Well, it's also confusing because within this 5 years that Bergdahl has been missing, he was also promoted within the military. Exactly. And so what about that? And now all of a sudden his fellow soldiers are coming out and saying he's a bad guy, he deserted. Well, then why was he promoted within that 5 years? There are a lot of loose ends here.
And nobody's ever said this before while he was in captivity.
Right.
Oh, we shouldn't be going after him. Who cares? He's a deserter.
Well, the Army's never classified him as a deserter.
No.
That speaks volumes. They never, because they haven't done the investigation. So until they do the investigation, it's still speculative. Was he deserted? Was he AWOL? Was he something else? Was he going to the bathroom?
Who knows?
The number? Give us a call and let us know your thoughts. Disagree with us. Our number is 617-500-7100.
And we're talking about the Bergdahl story. Big news, ongoing. This is going to be going on for a while. This is a biggie. There are just so many mysterious circumstances surrounding this. And sadly, he is an American soldier. He did come home. His hometown in Idaho was planning on having a big celebration for him, and that's been canceled. I believe it was the chief of police in his town stated that he received a call from an attorney who said that they would be bringing 2,000 protesters to the celebration.
No doubt.
This is an American soldier, and again, as Cindy was mentioning, the attorney on the premises, people have constitutional rights. We are not guilty. We are innocent until proven guilty, and it's really sad on a lot of levels.
Being crucified in the press,
and especially the military. There's something that particularly bothers me when this is military that are over there fighting for these very constitutional rights that we're challenging with this hate mentality and this do away with
due process.
Yeah. It's just
not
wrong.
just in this case, but due process for anybody that we deem not worthy of that.
We're
it's a slippery slope.
It is a slippery slope.
Like Tsarnaev, we should not give him due process. He's guilty. Let's just put him to death.
It kind of
who's going to be selecting the people that don't get due process in this country? Who makes that decision?
Right. Yeah. Reminds me of the Vietnam vets returning.
Yeah, getting spit on.
Yeah. Exactly, right? Same type of thing.
Well, as Cindy mentioned, we had a conversation the other night, and she mentioned people remember their constitutional rights very quickly when they get stopped.
No kidding.
And how we tend to forget other people's constitutional rights, whether we believe them to be guilty or not. Any one of us could be in the same situation, and this is why we have the scales of justice in America.
And they're blind. Lady Justice is blind.
That's right.
So you have to look at the facts and the evidence before you determine that somebody's guilty. And the system's not perfect. I've worked in this system many, many years, too many years, and I know the system is not perfect, but it is better than a lot of systems where they assume you're guilty and you have to prove you're innocent. Mm-hmm. In the United States, the Constitution gives you that presumption of innocence, and that goes to Bergdahl, and it goes to Chisholm, and it goes to the bombers of the marathon. Yeah. You know, I was really interested to learn when I looked at the Uniform Code of Military Justice that they guarantee a lot of the same due process rights that you get in a civilian court. And in fact, the military code or the military justice system was frequently ahead of our civil justice system with things like Miranda rights and oh, we have a caller.
Okay. Caller, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hello, welcome. What's your name?
Hi, my name is Patty. I'm from Beverly. Well, yeah, and I've been thinking about this a lot because people have been talking about it incessantly lately. And in a very negative, horrible, one sort of line way where they don't seem to have any. What I am thinking is if maybe they would think outside of the box. They traded Bergdahl for 5 guys. And these are 5 of the most heinous people in the Taliban. I mean, they all are pretty bad. But what I was thinking is maybe, just maybe, they released these guys to Qatar because, first of all, they said that if they try to leave Qatar in the first year, they're not going back to prison. They're going to die because that was part of the agreement that they can't leave Qatar, and that so if they try anything, we're just going to shoot them. And the other thing was, I was thinking, these guys now have a target on their backs. We can eliminate them now, where when they were in Gitmo, we couldn't do anything because they're prisoners. And we had all those problems with Bush. Remember when they had all those pictures of the prisoners being humiliated?
Abu Ghraib, in the prison. That's an interesting spin. I like that. I mean, it's interesting.
I was thinking that maybe, and the other thing is, maybe they're hoping that he will lead them to the leader of the Taliban, who we haven't been able to catch. We haven't been able to find him. And I forget what his name is. I had it too. Anyway, there is a leader of the Taliban that we've been trying to get for years, and we can't. And who's going to lead us to him but his people? So I'm just thinking maybe there's a little bit more to this than what the obvious is. And the government, I always think the government hides stuff from us because we can't know everything because it's just for our protection. So I've kind of thought maybe if we think out of the box a little bit, there's more to it. And maybe Bergdahl is just the guy who it was easiest to trade for. We needed somebody so we can release these guys.
You might be right. That sounds as plausible. It is. It's very plausible.
So Patty, you're, as indicated in what you've just stated, you are in favor of Bergdahl being released in exchange for 5 prisoners from Gitmo.
I am. I never really had a problem with it, and I think it's a shame that everybody, that it seems like a lot of the politicians, a lot of the conservatives especially, are trying to twist it. An election's coming up in 2 years, and they have to grab what they can at this point, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to take everything Obama does, because that's what they do now, and twist it into something horrible, to a bad decision. So I just think that it's sad, and I wish people, would think more for themselves and wonder, I wonder what's really behind this, rather than listening to the Sunday morning talk shows on TV and go, oh yeah, that's what that senator or congressman said, so that must be true.
Patty, what have you observed in terms of people taking sides with this, though? What I've observed, for example, is that conservative friends that I have are not taking the conservative congressional line where Obama did the wrong thing. They're actually standing by the fact that one of our U.S. soldiers was released, and they're pleased with that. Have you observed that or heard differently?
I haven't heard that from my conservative friends, but I'm happy to know that some people are thinking that way, because I just keep hearing, a lot of my conservative friends, though, are just so blind when it comes to anything Obama does. He's going to be wrong no matter what he does. Right. And like somebody, I think, said earlier, made a statement about that on your show, because he's always wrong. And that's kind of what I've been hearing more. But I think maybe my Republican conservative friends are a little more desperate because they're terrified of Hillary.
Yeah, they are. We should have Hillary as a topic.
Yes, we should. We should have Hillary as a guest on the show.
Yes. Well, there's also been some that say the Taliban is a political party. They're not Al-Qaeda necessarily. Some of them have contacts with Al-Qaeda, but not all of them are as radical. And some wonder whether this could be the first olive branch to the Taliban to try to set up dialogue with them, since they may be filling that power vacuum in Afghanistan when the American troops leave.
Yeah, they will be, most likely. They will be. They're very strong.
Do you think that's possible, Patty? What do you think of that?
I think that's possible too, and that's another, thinking outside of the box kind of thing. And I think that wouldn't be a bad thing either. How nice to think that we want a peaceful resolution and we want to get along with everyone. Because my thought is we want to kill them, but it's even nicer to think we want to create a peace. So,
I have to admit, I don't like the way they treat women, though. I as a woman, I just have a very difficult time accepting a political regime that keeps women bound up in black robes and beaten if they do something that's perceived as going against their laws. That just doesn't sit well with me.
No, I think there needs to be a lot of change coming to that region when it comes to human rights, and I think that I don't know how that would ever happen. I just don't. Their religion, it seems, is so strong in their hatred of their wanting women to not have power. Because I think in some cases they can't even drive and they can't leave the house without a man, a male relative, that kind of thing.
Right, they're property.
So yeah, I can't even. It's amazing to me in this day and age that sort of thing exists even. But I think it's going to be I think it's just going to be a really slow change. Because people don't change quickly, especially when it comes to their passion in religion. And it seems like it has to come over generations in time. So as much as I would love to see that kind of change there. I think it's necessary. I think it makes their culture stronger. And I think the only way you get change is to make the people who are changing think that it's going to benefit them. Like we can't say, we won't buy your product, we won't come to your country if you don't change. We have to say, if you do change, we'll spend billions of dollars over there instead of just hundreds.
Mm-hmm.
So that I think
and if you don't, we'll start a war and spend billions of dollars over there anyway.
Right,
So,
exactly.
Patty, thank you so much for weighing in with us today, Patty and Beverly.
Interesting.
Well, it's interesting because a week ago we were talking about the right to bear arms and how big and strong the lobby is to have